solving equations involving fractions. One thing we need to think about when dealing with fractions is coming up with the least common multiple in the denominator. When we have a fraction, such as 11 over 3, this always means a division. Here we can see it's visually a fraction. The numerator is always the top number, and the denominator is the bottom number. It's what we're dividing. And so if we had two different fractions, 11 over 3 and 7 over 5, and we want to come up with the least common multiple between 3 and 5, we're trying to think of the lowest number that we could multiply 3 by in order to get the same number when we multiply the 5. So for instance, well, we can always multiply them with each other. 3 times 5 would be 15. And so in this case, the lowest common multiple between 3 and 5 would be 15. Because I can't multiply 3 by anything to get 5, so now we're looking for the first common number that they have that we can multiply to. Or when in doubt, you can multiply them together. So if we were to multiply both fractions, 11 over 3 and 7 over 5 by 15, here's what that would look like. When you're multiplying by fractions, we can put it in the same format. 15 is also thought of as 15 over 1 times 11 over 3, and you multiply across the top. 11 times 15, 165. 1 times 3 is 3. We divide those, and we get 55. We can also use the scientific calculator. So I'm going to show you how that would work. If I click and open up our calculator, we can do 15 parentheses 7 over 5, and we get 21. The goal is to get rid of fractions when we're trying to solve them so we can deal with the whole numbers. Let's do an exercise. Determine the least common multiple between 4 and 8. Those are my numbers in the denominator. That would be 8. If you notice, I can multiply 4 by 2 and I get 8. Therefore, the common multiple, 8 times 1 would be 8. Our common multiple between them would be 8. So if I were to get rid of both of these and multiply them, again, I want to use our calculator here and help us determine, okay, 8 times 7 over 4. If you don't like dealing with fractions, you're more than welcome to always use this calculator. So 7 over 4 and 3 over 8 were the fractions we were dealing with. We could multiply them by the least common multiple, turn it into 14, turn it into 3. Those are nicer numbers to deal with. So I'm going to show you how we can apply that to an equation. So we have 3 over 2x plus 1 equals x plus 9 over 2. The first thing we need to determine is what's the least common multiple. Well, it's the same number. So we can just multiply by the denominator, or least common multiple, which would be 2. So we need to multiply by 2 on each side, which means we'll have to distribute. So we can draw our line down, and we can multiply both sides by 2. That means I have to take 2 times 3 over 2, and 2 times 1, 2 times x, and 2 times 9 over 2. And if I use my calculator skills, we just worked on that. 2 times 3 over 2 would give me 3x. 2 times 1 would give me 2. 2 times x, 2x. 2 times 9 over 2 leaves me with 9. Now we need to bring the x's to the same side of the equation. I'm going to do that by subtracting 2x on both sides. Cancels the x's out on the right, leaving me with 1x plus 2 equals 9. Now I got to bring the constants over to the same side. So I'll subtract 2 on both sides, and I'll have a final solution of x equals 7. Now we can double check our solution. Take our original equation, let's plug in our value of x into it, and now since we have to plug in x on both sides, we'll just deal with each side on its own. So I'm going to plug in 3 over 2, plug in my 7, and get plus 1, and you'll notice I get 11.5. Now I'll plug in my 7 on the other side, plus 9 over 2, and I get the same thing. Now, on this scientific calculator, here's the nice part. If you wanted to put it as a fraction, that's what it looks like as a fraction. And we can return it back to a decimal. So we get 11.5 on both sides, means this solution checks out. Let's solve an equation when the denominators are different. So we have a 3 here, I have a 6 here. I need to figure out the common multiple. Can I multiply 3 by anything to get 6? Yes, I can multiply 3 by 2. So therefore, 6 is my common multiple. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6 in order to help me get rid of the fractions. So I need to distribute 6 times x over 3, 6 times 1. 6 times x over 3 would leave me with 2x. 6 times 1 would leave me with a 6. 6 times 5 over 6 would leave me with 5x. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 divided by 6 leaves me with the 5. 6 times negative 3, gotta remember the negative, leaves me with negative 18. Now I'm ready to solve. I've got a whole number equation. This is pretty simple. We're going to bring the x's to the same side. I like moving the x's to the left, so I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides. They cancel on the right, leaving me with negative 3x plus 6 equals negative 18. Bring the constants to the same side. I got to move the positive 6. I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides, leaving me with negative 3x equals negative 24. Divide to get x by itself. So we'll divide by negative 3. And we'll get x equals 8. Again, we can always double check our solution. So if you ask Mr. Ryan, hey, is this right? I'm going to ask it, did you double check your solution? Did you grab your scientific calculator, plug in your x value of 8 over 3 plus 1. I'm getting that from right here from this side. Looks like it leaves me with that decimal. Let's see if I get the same decimal on the other side. So we have 5 over 6. Plugging in 8. So we'll put 8 in parentheses. Minus 3. And I get the same decimal. If we want it in fraction form, we get to click here. It will convert to a fraction. So if we left it in fraction form, you'll notice that we get the same thing on both sides, which means 8 has to be our solution.